relate to each other. One great character of the Ramayana, which I'm sure everyone likes to know, and I promised one of our doctors before the meeting to talk about, is Hanumanji. Hanumanji, how can we explain such a very complex character? How can it be that a structure in our body will become small, then become big, then send messages, then go through a small hole, then burn the city, then bring healing aspects and all of that? And if we look at it carefully, we find it is the hormonal system. All our endocrine system together is under the control of Hanumanji. And you know, the hormones are very tiny molecules, you can't even see them under the microscope, that travel everywhere in the body, that can penetrate through small holes that sit on receptors. They send messages, they are messengers actually, and therefore this is how it is a message. Yet, as a whole, as a group, they are huge. In a split second or a few seconds, if you have a secretion of hormones, a certain type of hormone in the body, your whole metabolism can be changed, your digestion can be changed, your immune system can be activated or deactivated. And when you look in the Ramayana and see how Hanumanji is described, you actually find that this is a physiological description of the entire hormonal system. I let you read how the Vanaras, which are the monkey-like aspects, are actually guided, and their king, Vali and Sugriva, and the relationship between them, and how they actually control the hormonal system. If we look at the pituitary gland, which is called the master gland of the body, we find that the anterior pituitary gland is Sugriva, and the posterior pituitary gland is Vali. Angada is the son of Vali. There is a long story of how they interact to each other, how Vali goes into the cave, which is the Sella Turcica, a specific cave in our brain, actually, existing in our brain. And only Vali could go through it. Sugriva had to wait on the door. And the whole story, in its very delicate intricacies, how Vali told him, I will send the milk if I kill the demon. If all of you, I don't know how many will remember that. And you see that this part of the structure of the pituitary gland is related to milk secretion, how this part is related to other aspects that are described almost technically precisely in the Ramayana, in word for word, as if you just change the words and the Ramayana becomes a physiological book, a book of neuroanatomy or neurophysiology. It's just by translating the names from the ancient Vedic names to the modern names, you see an exact and precise description of what is taking place. And what is amazing also is that even if you go back into the stories, for example, Vali was said to have been born from the head of his father, Riksharaja, and Sugriva was born from the neck of his father, Riksharaja. And then they joined together and worked together. All those who knows embryology, or remember something of it, we know that the posterior pituitary gland actually comes from the neural tube, which is from the head. And the anterior pituitary gland, I mean in our body, in physical physiology, the pituitary gland comes from the top of the neck, from the palate, the anterior pituitary. And the anterior pituitary climbs and joins the posterior pituitary. So when it's said in the Vedic literature, in the Ramayana, that Riksharaja's head, from his head came Vali, and from his palate or from his neck came Sugriva, it's an actual, precise description of how the structure actually developed, how they joined together. So these are just a few examples. The time doesn't allow us to go into it. Ramayana is so delightful. We could spend the whole night talking about Ramayana and certainly seeing how it connects to our body. But that's the point of the evening today, is to give us an idea of how actually we are Veda, in a physical way, how Ram is within us, Sita within us, Hanuman, Ravana also somewhere, and how they all interact, and how the story of the Ramayana is the story of our own development and our growth in higher states of consciousness, and how by actually achieving enlightenment and higher states of consciousness, we understand all the developments of the Ramayana taking place within us. This is the story of how creation is made, how life is made, how our body is made, how our society works, and how our universe works. This knowledge, which comes from direct experience, is perfect and complete knowledge. If we go back in history, what was the reference for action, the reference for thinking, for behaving? It was self-referral, pure knowledge. Today, modern science has given us a lot to improve our life. We have cars, we go to the moon, we fly fast, etc. But we always refer in our actions, in our politics, in creating our laws, in our decision-making, to our self-referral values within us. We refer to what we know best to do. And that is because our physiology is also an instrument of knowledge that when perfected and when awakened in all of its values, it can know everything, it can be everything, and it can live life in perfection. You have that knowledge. Your tradition, your ancestors, your parents have upheld that tradition for generations and generations. And today it's only because modern science had advanced enough that we can truly recognize the value of this knowledge. However, if I'm here for anything, is to share this with you and truly to have the opportunity to thank you and thank Veda Bhumi Bharat, Deva Bhumi Bharat. And the holy tradition of Vedic Master, and of course my teacher, Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, for maintaining this knowledge and giving it to the world for the creation of a true Ram Raj, heaven on earth everywhere. Jai Guru.
जय श्री राम। जय श्री राम।
कहते हैं कि ईश्वर दिखाई नहीं पड़ता, हो तो दिखाओ, दिखाओ तो मान ले। और जब आधुनिक भौतिकी कहती है, आधुनिक भौतिक शास्त्र कहता है कि इलेक्ट्रॉन है और दिखाई नहीं पड़ता, तब ये संदेह नहीं उठाते। तब ये डॉक्टर कोवूर और इस तरह के लोग फिर संदेह नहीं उठाते कि ये बात हम कैसे मान लें कि तुम कहते हो है और दिखाई नहीं पड़ता। है तो दिखा दो। किसी वैज्ञानिक की क्षमता नहीं कि इलेक्ट्रॉन को दिखा दे, मगर वैज्ञानिक कहता है तो, क्योंकि हम उसके परिणाम देखते हैं। यही तो पुराने शास्त्र कहते हैं कि परमात्मा नहीं दिखाई पड़ता, लेकिन परिणाम दिखाई पड़ते हैं। ये देखो, इतना बड़ा व्यवस्था, ये इतना बड़ा आयोजन, और क्या प्रमाण चाहिए? तुम जाओ मरुस्थल में और तुम्हें पड़ी हुई एक घड़ी मिल जाए, हाथ की साधारण जेब घड़ी या हाथ घड़ी, तुम्हें कोई भी दिखाई ना पड़े, दूर दूर मरुस्थल तक कहीं कोई पद चिन्ह ना मालूम पड़े, तो भी तुम कहोगे कि कोई मनुष्य आया है जरूर। ये घड़ी कहां से आई? तुम ये तो न मान सकोगे कि सिर्फ संयोग वसात ये घड़ी अपने आप निर्मित हो गई। टिक टिक घड़ी अब भी बजा रही समय को। क्या तुम ये मान सकोगे कि संयोग वसात